What's going on, everybody? It's day after Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving and coming just to hang out and talk some organics in the wormhole, I guess. What are we calling that again? Anyway, we got Pharmacy Seed Network and Medically Fit and Nick Risden of Lime Rising Farm joining us. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man.
Yeah.
I've ate a lot of food in the last 36 hours.
Yeah, definitely. I got a full body too. Sweet, Chris is making it in. We got
I ate so much
Chris
food,
from Country
man.
Roots joining too. So
I don't have a history of heartburn or anything. I actually had to go to Walmart today and buy some Tums and some Prilosec and different stuff. Like I ate so much food yesterday, I was hurting. So
yeah. Well, so just to kind of introduce Nick a little bit, the other guys have hung out with us a few weeks here on the show, but so Nick's a Dem Pure certified organic farmer here in Michigan, and they are putting him and Chris, who's joining in now when his audio starts or whatever. But him and Chris are from Country Roots are putting on a Sungrown event, which we're excited about going to, and they both are organic farmers, man. Always some good knowledge there too.
Chris in here?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me yet.
Yeah, I can.
Yep, we can hear you.
Do I got to turn my camera on? Is it on or maybe not?
You don't gotta. I mean, we can hear you. You can have off camera or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'll turn it on. I just didn't realize what I'm doing here.
I'm all running behind too, man, trying to get Johnny rolling.
There you go. Thanks for having us on.
Oh yeah, man, I appreciate you guys coming on. I was kind of introducing Nick, and then so Chris is owner of Country Roots, which is here in Michigan, and they supply a lot of unique organic supplies that you can't find at all the grocery stores. I guess the best way to say it. And grows and ferments a lot of his own stuff too. He's got his own line of nutrients, and Chris really grown Country Roots a lot here in the last few years. So I'm proud to support and use his stuff. And in fact, I just went and grabbed another 10 bags of soil or whatever from Grower Outlet. So
Thank you. Thank you for the support. It means a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been a pleasure to work with the soil and amendments, I guess, if I will. That's been a dream of mine to kind of put these projects together and just keep developing them over the years, developing my composting and my composting methods and, different mixed blends and, understanding the mineralogy and nutrient levels and trying to dial in those where I like them to be. My overall goal is, a regenerative soil or long-term lasting soils. And so, trying to build something that's robust enough that people can potentially grow in for years. And so that's what we've been trying to really dial in. And, it's been about 3 years strong now, and I'm very happy with where we're at and very happy with, where we're going to be going here in the next year or so.
Most definitely, man. Just to get it out of the way here, you guys got an event that you're hosting coming up. I think there's still tickets available, right? I think.
Yeah, we still got tickets available. This is our second year. I hit up Chris last year and told him my idea for wanting to do this. The whole idea started one particular day, and I can't even remember who had the thread on Instagram, but it was talking about Sungrown is garbage, Sungrown is trash, indoors where it's at, blah blah blah. it was last summer, and I hit up Chris, and I'm like, "Yo, man, um, I kill outdoor. I'm not going to be humble at all when I say that. I kill outdoor. Um, I run we build monster Hugelkultur pits. It's country roots. Me and Chris are friends. For 3 years he's been pumping soil into those beds with all the compost I build, biochar logs and stuff like that. You've been out the farm last 3 years, Smiley, helping me when I've been sick and doing stuff. So the whole idea was to put an event on for farmers to showcase what they do. Organic, sun-grown farmers to showcase what they do. I also, to an extent, had an idea of, hey, like if there's other people looking for meds, looking for stuff, they can come and talk to organic, sun-grown farmers right there about the medicine, and we could all showcase each other's stuff. Also, for us to get around, me getting with you, getting with Country Roots, getting with Rascal Farmer, getting with guys at a table, all trying each other's stuff. Rascal like, yo, Nick, you need to grow this plant next year. Hey, Smiley, I think I want to grow that shit that you've got in that thing next year. Us bouncing ideas off each other. Michigan is a good community. It's been good to me since I've been up here, and bringing that mix of the growers in there that all have. If you're growing organic, you got somewhat of the same type of styles as far as your overall goal and putting out clean medicine. So just showcasing that off, showcasing Chris's amendments and different stuff, and letting people put their weed up and show like, hey, I'm really proud of this. This is what we did, and having a little competition behind it. So this will be our second year doing this. Last year, it was an amazing vibe, more so than anything else. I think we judged 77 strains last year of dried flower cannabis.
Now, I've been to a DGC Cup, and they have 50 plus. I think the year that they couldn't count them all, they had about 60 something. And that's a lot to go through. That's a lot to go through.
Yeah. I'm a big smoker. Like I smoke 15 joints a day anyway, on an average day. I flew Dutch Blooms out. Joshua Rutherford is one of my best friends to help me do the judging. Me and him sat here for 3 days and knocked it out. At that point, man, when you get into things, that's even here. I'll flip this around if I can. Flip the camera around. I don't know how to do that. Like this particular, like when you get into smoking like that, this is what I'm smoking right now. This particular joint, though, was something that I grew that was real fruity. I got halfway down, like, I can't smoke this no more, like the fruit. And, what I mean by that is last year we tried to start off, me and Dutch had the mindset of we're going to go through every one of these plants. Towards the end, we may have just rolled it and took 2 hits. Like if it was just not feeling it all the way through, it might have been boom. But we went through 77, me and Dutch, in 3 days. It was a lot. My throat was raw. We were drinking ginger ale. We were taking there was something else too, like supplements, aloe, just to soothe the throat, man. We smoked so much weed, but yeah, it was fun to go through. Stuff does stand out, instantly when you're going through that much. A lot of weed looked good, but the cure was bad, or vice versa. So it was fun to go through. Now, when it came to the hash part, I stepped back and let other dudes, even though we process we have a lot of our farm turned into hash. I'm not a heavy hash smoker, not just straight hash. I roll worms and things like that. So I didn't feel like I was qualified. I stepped back on that one. But we also let the general public, we marked it down. What was it, Chris? 10? The top 10 or 15?
Yeah. So we have a panel of judges. Nick and Dutch, did a lot of the judging and, did a lot of it live for us, thankfully. So a lot of people were able to go on and watch them judge it. But we also have some other judges that are involved in, so I have it, all the strains rated by the different categories that we're rating them. And then all the judges can react and then provide notes on them. And so we go through, we tally up all the votes, and we can figure out what the top 3 entries are according to the judges' votes. But we also took the top 10, the top 10 that were, given a bunch of positive notes from the judges. And then we notify the top 10 growers that, they were in the top 10, and we let those strains come to the competition. So at the competition for the fan favorite category, everybody was able to look at those top 10 strains and vote on them. And then we have an additional award for fan favorite. So, if you got some real good bomb, you could win 2 awards easily.
That's the one cool thing about that event that I thought really set it apart is I've been to a lot of events where they've had competition, a flower competition. Not one have I been able to like see the flower, you know what I'm saying? And like when they announced the winner, I didn't get to see what they entered or whatever. But at that event, when you guys announced the winner, and then we fucking smoked it, you know what I mean? Like it was up for sampling and voting on by everybody that was attending. It was really cool.
What was really cool was I didn't know any names or anything like that. It was all off numbers. And to know that 7 of my friends and buddies, even people that came in and just judged, picked the one that I picked as a winner. Like many people were really in agreement on who won different categories and things. So I like that people could jump in there and just smoke the weed, smoke the hash, and try it out. So
yeah, that's like you say, that's the number one thing about the Sungrown celebration is all of us there, bring and show off our work. And, everybody who comes to the event is even welcome to bring and show off some of their work. So everything is on display, all the sponsors and vendors that we're working with, we know that each of them works inside and outside, and that they got, a beautiful outdoor summer harvest that they've been working on. And so, it's all right there for the people to see. And, the people who appreciate the meds, they can come and check out what these organic growers are working with. And, it's exciting because we're not all growing the same things either. Like if you look around, the majority of us have different projects completely. And another category that we like to highlight is the Michigan bred and grown. And you'll see that a lot of these growers have bred some strains of their own, as facts. So, some of their own strains are, showcased in that case. But
See,
pretty
this is where I kind of wish Colorado would fucking get their shit together, because there's so many of us growers out here that we can't seem to get together and put an event together like this. And I don't comprehend why, because all from the Front Range to the Western Slope, like we've got a lot of good cultivators. And there used to be an event that was like home growers type deal, but I haven't heard about it in years. And so it's kind of nice to hear you guys doing this stuff up there, so people can really see what's going on.
Well,
yeah, I will say it's kind of hard to do in a sense, with sometimes just like different egos can get involved. But, we're very fortunate here that, at least in our community in Michigan, these organic regen type of a community of friends, there's hundreds of us, and, and we all get along pretty well. And we all, genuinely enjoy seeing what other people are working with, and, and showcasing all of that. And so I don't, that's, I think that's kind of the key right there, is that you got to have some common interest.
yeah, I was going to ask too, are you guys allowing entry from out of state growers too?
as long as they're organic, that organic and sun-grown, not like that, like sun-grown, and organic. That's why we have the Michigan bred or grown category. And when we originally talked about this last year, me and Chris, and I competed in dogs for 15 years. There was a lot of people that would fly over to Germany or Czech Republic or Finland and buy a dog for $40,000, $50,000, come back to America and compete with it. And then there were bred, handled, owned, and trained categories, like for people that done dogs. So that was the same thing I wanted in this, to say, hey, I didn't want this. I don't want 75 entries of lemon cherry gelato. I don't want 75 entries of runts. I don't want, I wanted actual Michigan strains out there, Michigan breeders that have done that, and every different breeder has 5 or 6 guys that really push their, their stuff, or grows their stuff. So there's enough farmers out there, and we've got amazing breeders here in Michigan. So it wasn't to cut out other breeders out of other states. That's what those other categories are for. And if somebody was in Wisconsin, somebody was in Ohio and didn't even want to be known, you know, we want you to compete. You're organic, sun-grown, put yourself on the table. I don't compete because it's mine and Chris's event. I don't compete because of that, and I missed that opportunity. Like a lot of us brag on our weed. It's just about putting it on the table. And even then, I picked last year. The plant that I picked was a tangy type plant as the winner. I fucking hate tangy terps. You know, it was because when I got to it, and I still didn't like it, it was that it was so tangy, so loud, so pretty, so nice that I'm like, oh man, you're special. Like for anybody that likes tangy or citrus or anything like that, this is special. And if you smoke nonstop gas and nonstop cake all day, and then you get to something completely different, it just woke me up and stayed in my mind, even though it's not my terps.
So I think he's talking about back porch cherry that
Strangely rooted.
Strangely Rooted grew. He
Strangely
took
rooted strain.
Yeah.
And
back
I
porch
call
cherry
it a tangy smell to me because it was a different form of orange, but or citrus. But yeah, even though that's not my terps, I respected it so much. I still chose it, you know, as the winner of everything. And we also wanted to have an event, you know, like Chris delivers soil to everybody, delivers mineral. He gets to see so many people's grows, and he was like, "Yo, so many people's got fire herb." Honestly, I want an event where they could come in. We only have like 8-9 vendors there that are all organic, sun-grown guys. We tell everybody else, bring your shit, throw it on the fucking table. You want to talk to other people about it, you do your business. You know, we want you to bring your stuff, like show it off, make contacts, talk to people.
So there's a question in chat, Nick.
Yeah.
They were asking the amount of strains that you guys are trying out or sampling to judge. Are there any is it affecting you smoking that much through the whole day? You know,
dog. Like that's me. I can only speak on me. I take a lot of RSO and have been for 6 years due to all my medical issues. I smoke for terpene. You know, the RSO gives me all the medical needs I need today. I don't really get high. Sometimes it catches up with me about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, hey, you know, like all day long. Or if I smoke like a strain that I haven't smoked, you know, if Smiley gave me something I haven't been smoking for the last 3 months, may catch me just because it's different. It doesn't affect me. It didn't affect Dutch Blooms. Dutch Bloom smokes like I do. I'm not going to call him out, but I got a friend that was folded in the Airbnb of the event, sitting in the corner, didn't even know what his name was. It affected him. You know, he didn't know what was going on. At that point, we could have handed him a McDonald's French fry and set it on fire, and he'd have been like, "This shit is so fire, dude!" Like he was gone. You know, at that point, we realized his opinion didn't really matter anymore. He just didn't judge, though. From that point. Yeah, certain people can have an issue. That is honest to God why I flew Dutch Blooms out last year. Is I knew he could sit there with me. And this ain't a bragging thing. I'm not bragging by saying I can smoke that much weed. That's just because of the RSO, you know. So
that's part of the judging element that the judges that we choose, you know, I know that they're going to smoke with a buddy or a couple of buddies. And, and in that case, I've given them a couple of judges cards even and said, you know, I want each of you to, you know, judge them together and judge them out how you feel. You know, you don't have to judge them, you know, the same. Of course, you guys are free to pick the ones that you like the best. But I think that that's a valuable part of the judging process. I've judged and, you know, you've sat there by yourself and you're kind of judging them. But, you know, I think that community aspect of just kind of smoking with a buddy and saying, wow, that's some fire. Or, you know, I don't know about that one. I think that's a pretty important part of it. And the other part of the judging is we have a week overall to judge them. So we don't have to judge them all overnight. Correct. Some of these competitions are doing it like, you know, live at the day and they judge them all like in like 6 hours or something like that. You know, we have multiple days to judge these. So, you know,
I gave it 3 days. Yeah, last year, like
roots and took it very seriously after Nick and Dutch and the other judges went through them. we laid them all out on the table and we looked at the judges' cards and we figured out which ones we thought were the best. And that's what we put forward.
And at that point, I'm going for terps. I'm honest to God going for terps on outdoors because the outdoor is so much harder to cure properly than indoor is. All the extra stem, leaf material, bringing it in, it always seems to be a little bit harder to cure. I'm going for terps on all this. So effect is already there after I smoked 30 joints that day and took a gram of RSO and whatever. I'm going through terps. And honestly, like I got to look at this before I break it up. Now that's part of it. There's all pieces to that puzzle. Out of all the strains last year, several of them impressed me. But when you get into it at that point, there are sometimes it was me and Dutch Blooms, Bo Walls that judged together and Country Roots. And I think was it Smoking Storks also might have judged with us, but.
Yeah.
When we rolled up that many, there were sometimes, due to my medical conditions, I don't smoke with anybody. I roll my own individual joint. The other guys were smoking with each other. I would hit that within 2-3 joints or hits. I could decide right then if I wanted to keep on. If this tasted like hay and barn dirt, which is a improperly cured type, or even lightly any way of mold. I was putting this stuff out like boom, done, you're out, marked. If I got into something instantly that even like I said, if it wasn't my terpene, like strong citrus or grape that I'm not a big fan of, but if I hit one of them, if it was nice, I'm like, whoa, hold up there. I'm looking at a representative of its terpene. So if I'm judging grape, I don't like grape. But if I am, I'm going to be the harshest critic of grape. I'm going to go through that shit. Like you better be nice on the grape, like not artificial, real true grapes. What type of grapes? White grapes. There's a lot of different levels there to go into. Do you stay on my tongue? Do you hit me on the front, middle, back of the palate? When you go down, is all that smoke staying right here, or is it going deep, lung, like sticky and greasy type smoke? All that shit matters to me. If I'm getting into some gas strains, it's not just the breaking up, man. Sometimes I'm still a kid with this. I still want smelling my fingers and stuff like, whoa, that is gas, man. That is fuel. If I'm getting up out of the chair and I'm walking over like, yo, Chris, did you smoke number 37? All right, then 37 is already special. If I'm already going over there trying to tell, because these ain't lightweights. Everybody that's at the table we're doing this shit, or all you guys or anybody watching this shit, you guys are smokers. We have done put our hands on so much.
Nick, you just mentioned numbers. Now, I've been to quite a few DGC events, and when people are handing their jars, they're kind of told what numbers their jar is. Are you guys doing that? Because to me, that's kind of like unfair, because I can tell my friends to go vote for me. It's this jar. And that's why I'm asking, is because some cups do it.
Hey, where is one of those jars? I just saw one from last year. So Chris brings me a big garbage bag or a shopping bag full of samples. His wife does it all. I'm not part of any of that part. They put it all in the sample bags. They just have numbers on it. I have no idea who anybody's stuff is. No idea. So I'm going through on numbers. To be honest with you, I got a brain injury and I moved to Michigan 5 years ago. I don't know who any of these people are anyway. Like somebody could be like, yo, I'm number 12. Nobody knows their own numbers. We just go through and I actually line it up 1 through the end number. I go in numerical order, so I ain't jumping all over the place while I'm making notes. And I'm not making elaborate notes. It's more like, yeah, pass, amazing, wow, that was strong ass, great, but we have no clue as to who the numbers are.
That's good.
Chris has people in the background that do all of that. Chris didn't judge last year. He just sat down with us, the rest of the guys, and smoked with us on a lot of stuff. You
And
know,
it,
I remember you being at the Airbnb, Chris, because that was all hazy those 3 days. But I do remember you being at the Airbnb with us smoking for a while, because I believe you were tainted. You knew the numbers, correct?
Well, no, I don't know the numbers. Some of my workers put the judge kits together, so when they're all put in the kits, it's just randomly entries put into the kit. So we have all individual jars for the hash and the flour, so everything gets divided up into the same jars, and then it gets assigned a number and put forward. So at that point, I don't even know which numbers are which, but I'm not an official judge. I just I'm actually the one who counts the votes at the end of the thing, and so I do put my honest view on all the strains and look at them and choose make sure that I agree with the ones that I think are going to be the best ones put forward. But I'm not choosing the winners per se, other than just counting the votes.
Well, and
as I was going to say, as a participant too, they just had the 10 jars out. So there was 1 through 10, and you could smell them, and you didn't have to smoke all of them. You could pick number 3, number 4, number 7, and only smoke those 3 and only judge those 3. But that was kind of cool too. So you didn't have to necessarily go through it 1 through 10. You could, skip over some or never smoke some of them. So
now
And
I
how
do tell the judges if one of them looks particularly off and you don't want to smoke it, I'm not making you smoke all the entries. You have a right to add a note and a reason you didn't want to smoke it. Maybe it just didn't smell right. Maybe it didn't look right. Maybe it was too brown, whatever it may be. But that's not a good entry. And then you look across the other judges' cards and you see that they didn't give that strain good votes either. And it's pretty clear that that wasn't a good one at that point. So that's why I say I'm looking for overall judges' reactions. I put together, 8 to 10 judges, and then these judges that have other people that they're smoking with. So, we're getting at least, 16 different judge cards back. And so it's pretty clear the ones that get the most reactions from the judges. And then, like I say, we pick those, and those are find the top 10 out of there. And
so those samples the samples you send out are, is it like a gram, couple grams, for them to
No,
try
it's
over and
a couple
over? It's a couple grams.
yeah, yep. 1.5 to 2 grams.
So it gives you enough. You can like break it down, roll a little joint, take a couple bong rips, just try a
Here's
couple
a
different
sample
ways.
jar from last year, and only reason I know is I got a son that found a bag of these all empty and clean, and they became his favorite toy. He stacks them on top of each other. But Sungrown 0118, other than the top.
Yeah, I think it's important to have enough flour in the jar so that you can roll one up and you don't completely exhaust the entire sample that you have, so that you can go back to it. If it's a really good one, you can set it
And look
aside.
at
Like, oh, I
it.
really like that one. And, you'll find your best ones, and then you got another nugget that you can go back to and look at and, make sure that you're clear on which ones you like the best.
So how many entries were in this year? The entry
Less this year than last.
Yeah, it's not looking like we're going to get as many entries this year. Last year, the Organic Cup happened a couple weeks before our event, and that really helped me out. I went there and, was able to talk to a lot of people there, and they submitted entries. And then I think a little bit, overall, there's a little less people growing this year. And I'm still collecting entries through the end of next week. But so it's hard to say exactly how many I'm going to get in, but there'll be over probably 30 flower strains and probably like 30 hash strains. But so it'll probably be half as many flower strains, honestly, as there were last year, which whatever that is, that's what it is.
I'd love
That's
to
good though
turn
for
into
me,
a
man.
national event too. Like we were saying, like having other states enter. I think that'd be kick ass to have that be like a
Yeah.
national thing.
Yeah, because there are other categories that we can add. Like this year, I did try to add a couple other categories to see what the interest is. But, this competition by far in and out is just the best flower and the best solventless hash. That's the showcase of the project. And then the Michigan bred and grown flower and hash as well. that's a really nice award to win as well. But we could
See,
do
to me, that's
greenhouse.
the showcase of the thing, Chris. But that's how it's tailored to individual different people. Everybody likes a different thing about it. That's a Michigan bred and grown is what I care about the most. So,
but I'm just saying, in the future years, we would like to grow this thing out. We're gonna have a lot of fun again this year, but we want to kind of let this know that this is going to be a regular thing, and we're looking for a bigger venue for next year, and then we could have a little bit more opportunity to invite people from out of state. It's kind of hard to do because you got to help with finances and things like that. So we would probably need to find a nice venue where we have a little more room to spread out. But we're working our way there.
Me and Chris have also talked about doing an event like in the spring that's not a competition, that's more Sungrown oriented, about setting up farmers for success, and everybody in there sharing tips and stuff of that nature and resources. So it's spreading this out this year. There's not as many growers. Networking there is not just about the competition. I networked with people like I talked to more people last year at that event and had a good vibe with them. That's the overall focus of me, getting to do a Sungrown Michigan event, seeing all the Michigan farmers. Everybody may be organic and still have a little different flair to how they do everything. Also, the strains that are entered are a major variance for me. Like I'm stuck here in my own bubble as far as what's grown, what's bred, what I deal with. I don't get to see all these other strains. So it's good for that, on showcasing all the different variety that is out there.
Absolutely. And I will say, to be honest, dude, totally, I was one that I always looked at outdoor as being a lower quality. As a buyer before I was a grower, like, you could buy outdoor weed a lot cheaper, you know what I mean? So it was always kind of looked at in a lower light. But when I first visited your grow, the flowers that were coming out of that Hugel bed are pretty fucking amazing, and they're pretty beautiful. They're really beautiful, and they smell amazing, and it totally changed my opinion on it. I mean, it really did. So.
Yeah, no.
Outdoor Sungrown is the ultimate way to test genetics. And so, when it comes to genetic superiority, we have to highlight Sungrown cannabis, because this is the way that we could test genetics to their ultimate performance. It's one thing to see what they can do inside, but it's different outside. You can grow them, bigger or not. You can grow them with less cost, less variables, so you're able to hunt more genetics out. I can't hunt as many seeds indoors as I can outside, and so this really keeps the genetic potential ball moving. And all these growers really excited to bring what they got to the table and come talk about it. Brings and just keep steamrolling these genetics further and further. And I can already see the buzz for this year that was built from last year, and that'll just keep rolling into next year.
Absolutely, man. One other thing that I think a lot of people need to learn too, and so Rascal Farmer did a post, because not a lot of people know the stuff that you can supply, and we've talked some organics in the last few weeks about inputs and different things, but just knowing that a lot of the individual rock dust, insect frass, some of the inputs that growers look for that aren't necessarily available through grow stores can be found at Country Roots. So check him out if you're looking around. He's definitely got a lot of unique products. So very cool on that too.
I've told people to look at my outdoor beds, because even though, we build everything, but the top layers are Country Roots. We go down 8-foot Hugel. I do weird Hugel pit style growing. Not many do it as deep as I do, and we layer up with so much compost, but the top is Country Roots, and we killed it in Michigan this year, like 14, 15, 17 foot tall plants, 25 foot wide. And I'm
Okay,
not exaggerating.
Nick, you got to
Yeah.
talk more about your Hugelkultur so people understand what you're doing with it, because there's a lot of process to it. And some people like how they do their layering and how they build it up. Because, like me in a desert area climate, I have to do that to keep moisture in my soil. So, can you explain
Right.
to some of the chat some of that?
Yeah, in a weird way, man, we're kind of desert here in Michigan, by meaning, you dig 3 inches down and it's complete beach sand here on my farm. I mean, beach sand, white beach sand. So I moved up here 5 years ago from Kentucky, uh, which is still illegal. They got a medical program, but there's no way for you to buy it or grow it. But anyway, I moved up here. I went to prison overgrowing 20 years ago. So when I got up here, my whole concept was like, I'm going full sun, man. Like, I brought in a skid steer and I went down. Also in Kentucky, if you start digging, you're hitting limestone rock the size of car hoods and trucks and shit like that. Like, you can't dig, like that deep. In Michigan, it's just sand. I ate that shit up like butter, with that skid steer. I would just make passes and go back and forth. So my beds are double the size of a skid steer bucket, probably about 10 foot wide. We went down about 8 foot and then we laid logs. On the logs, I hit those with dragonfly earth medicine, lush roots, microbes, bokashi, different stuff, and let that cook when they were down in there. We layered that with compost. Then we put the top soil, not all that sand, the top soil, back onto those logs. Now we covered those logs in cow manure. And then from there, it is leaf compost again, natural soil, biochar, wood again, smaller wood. Now down at the bottom, I've got hardwood. It's going to take longer. And hardwood goes all the way up, but there's also a lot of softwood that's going to break down quick. I want shit to be available that year. I want shit to be available 10 years from now. And we keep going up in these weird little layers. And in every one of the layers, there's leaf, there's biochar, there's hardwood, softwood, there's natural soil, and there's a touch, very, very small touch, low, built soil, country root soil, my indoor soil repurposed outside with compost. When I get up to about 4 foot tall, I go heavy on compost and country roots of soil. That's when it switches from so much of building up all that Hugel pit into softer type soils. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't claim to be an organic guru. We're Dim Pure certified. We've closed all of our loops. We are just bringing a few things: country roots, Frass Valley, insect frass. I use some craft blend from Build-A-Soil and Rootwise Soil Dynamics. I use some of their microbes, and I don't need to use Rootwise Soil Dynamic microbes. It's just that we're in Michigan, and in May, when you get on Instagram, everybody in Humboldt's rocking and rolling with the vegetable gardens. I still got fucking ice out in my shit, and I'm out there hitting it up with, some Rootwise or some Brandon Russ has got a couple products I like a lot just to start the farm off the right way, get everything going and humming. But we just layer up like that. And then we put basic clones as big as my chest to my head that are top ones outside June 1st. And we end up with 17 foot tall plants in Michigan. And I'm not trying to brag there. I'm just saying, like, anybody that comes here on the farm are like, holy shit, I've never seen nothing like that in Michigan ever,
I'm one of them people, man. I can attest to that. They are that fucking tall and they're that big. The stalks are that big around. They grow amazing.
On these things like this that are twice the size of a 2 liter happy plants. But we face every problem everybody else does in Michigan. Like Septoria the last few years has been bad. I don't know why. All of a sudden this thing showed up and it wreaks havoc. My beds and huge, and I mean deep, guys, 6-8 inch mulch layers, on top of that compost really helps this stuff. Country Roots has been out here and Smiley out here a lot with to help me out. And also, though, I mean, big plants are big problems. They're not for everybody. I don't have a commercial license. we put 36 plants out there. We bringing down 250 pounds. I mean, it's a lot of,
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
I would prefer, me personally, I would prefer a plant up a little bit past the thigh. It usually seems a better quality cannabis, little plants.
Having plants that tall, like one person, when I had my greenhouse,
Yeah.
it would take me over 40 hours just to trim the plant up. That's a fucking full week worth of work for one person.
Oh, yeah, man.
And you bring a couple people out there.
Out here bucking one plant down all day to buck one bicket down for hash. 5 dudes all day long. But it's, it's a different level, but you also get a lot of biomass. Everything isn't for, to strip it, make money off of it. My compost is made out of cannabis. We make our compost is out of cannabis, out of turnips, radishes, and wood chip, So we're turning 50 pounds easily back into compost every year to feed back the plants. Same way leaves are falling off the tree, refeeding the tree outside is the same thing that we're doing here. And I learned 80% of this shit off Country Roots above me, sitting here in this chat. So me and Chris are actually like real friends in real life. I mean, we text every day. We do all that other stuff. I'm not an organic guru. That's him. I just had this crazy idea of building these massive pits, of giving them area to push out roots. And we grow with so many other plants. I mean, there's radishes, turnips, potatoes, tobacco.
Say you got such a diverse cover crop going, and then you harvest those and make the compost out of it. So it's a closed loop right there. You know what I mean?
It's fun like that, man. You're literally pulling up food around there. Now, those radishes, daikons, and beets, I would tell anybody wanting to go in organic gardening or farming, the first thing is lay down a bunch of radishes and beets and just let them rot in the ground. It's just constantly putting organic matter right back into them. And those daikon radishes, all right, they'll get long like that. You can actually pull those out for your compost and then come back through and fill those holes with your already built compost. Boom, 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 boom. We're year 4 here, and we pushed out plants here, man, that I didn't think was possible this year.
Every season, like wintertime, do you do anything like try to put cover crop back over it to keep stuff going in the hugel beds? Are you trying to re-amend with anything besides compost and manure? Like
in the fall, we lay down straw, and we lay down some beets and some radishes. Now, a lot of that, the tops of the beets and radishes and kale, they'll go for a long time, even in the winter in Michigan. And then we lay down, Country Roots does a veg mix. I lay that down heavy in the fall, like after we harvest. I leave the skeletons are still in the ground out there for my plants. There's little buds on that. In the spring, we go back, chop all that down, even the skeletons, lay them down. Then the compost comes out that we built in the fall, because all of our trimmings, our small buds, all that stuff gets mixed back into that stuff of compost. We lay that stuff down. We gather as much leaf as we can. Leaf, I wish I had more time to get leaf off trees. People throw this away and burn it, and I'm busy, trimming and stuff right then, so I can't get it all. But that's the stuff. Country Roots comes back in the spring with a little bit. I put a top layer of soil down. It's because each year my bed goes up this high. All the straw, compost, biochar. I relay biochar every fall. Biochar is all charged. Brandon Rust has my brain went blank. A micro plus thing that I soak biochar in for like 7 days in a big feed troughs outside. I'll mix it up and soak it in there. Lay that stuff back out. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I want to point that out real quick too, man. I was a 20-year synthetic farmer. It just seems right. I just keep laying more organic matter on all this shit. And Country Roots just comes out here and is like, it looks good. And I'm like, well, that's good enough for me. And I walk back in the house and we're good to go. So,
I just want to say Nick does it really, really well. He's doing it right. I see a lot of gardens around the state. You know, I absolutely see hundreds of gardens throughout the year, and you know, a lot of them very, very impressive. I will say that. But one thing about hugel beds is a lot of people start at base level and then they kind of just build their hugel mounds on top of that and they're planting in. And so when you put, you know, all that thick, heavy debris and you're trying to mound it up and have a little soil, some of these hugel beds, they don't really have much actual soil. You know, it's just a bunch of material and compost, and they're trying to grow in that. And that's a difficult process. That engine actually is going to take a few years to really get going. And so there's some different processes of hugelkultur, you know. And so when you do it like Nick does it, and you know, carve a lane and dig down into the native soils, and it's not like he's throwing all that native soil away. That doesn't get trashed out. If it's too much sand, obviously he has to spread that out somewhere else on his yard. But he's taking, you know, some of that native soil and he's turning that with his compost and, you know, his different amendments and some of his things, and he's layering that down on top of the logs inside of that bed, and then building a soil profile on top of that. And so, you know, his roots can just boom, you know, just go for it. And you know,
See,
it's a pretty deep journey for them versus, you know, some of these hugels that are built on top of the ground. You know, the root structure is not nearly as intense as what's going
that's
on.
that's some of my problem here in Colorado. I'm on top of clay. So
Yeah.
I can dig down so far, but I still have clay. So I have a lot of compaction for my root zone to try to get through.
Kentucky was
So
clay, man. I feel you. I mean, I had 29 acres in Kentucky, and it was clay. I actually brought in an excavator because my wife did hemp, and I would dig little thinner,
mhm.
but like with the excavator bucket, like long straight lines, and fill it like little culture pit style that way. And then the clay around it would almost hold that moisture and hold that coolness down there. But fucking clay is brutal. Up here, we're
So
dealing with sand that looks just like Chris's wood behind him. You know, I mean, so it's two different levels of wow, this is weird. You know,
Yeah, so with a clay, you can't dig down too much because you get
no,
what's called a bathtub effect, and it
yeah,
really
it
just
just
can
retains the
fill it up.
water more
Yep.
than it does allow it to flow
correct.
out. And that's where like I've dug down just a couple feet because we don't get a lot of water anyhow, but there's times that my yard is flooded that it's taken all of my mulch and washed it to one side of the yard because we've had so much water come through. And that stuff will sit there, but in 3 days, it's already gone. Like we are in such a desert that water evaporates so quickly. I have to do different stuff like that to help try to retain the moisture where you guys have a lot more moisture every year than what I get. So it's a little more difficult. That's why I try to find like cardboard to put in my Hugelkultur stuff to kind of really help hold moisture versus what I want to more aeration.
Yeah. The other
I
thing
would
that Nick did really nice with his beds is he had a really nice big white beech tree that was in his backyard. And right when he built those beds, they had to take that tree down, and it was giant. It had a whole bunch of trunks off of it, and he took all those trunks and lined all the way around his bed, so it helps him, you know, hold his form inside of those big logs. And you know, that's a great process. You know, he's got me, you know, as someone with a soil company, I tell him all the time, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can let you have more soil in your beds for years to come, man. I'm gonna have to redig my beds and rethink what I'm doing here. You know, at least have one spot where I dig out a nice big trailer bed of dirt for myself. But no, it's a great process and a lot of fun to watch Nick's plants grow. And you know, it's a big part of, you know, why we're in this thing together. Is, you know, we're our overall goal too is, you know, to motivate these farmers and, you know, make this fun again for us. You know, we want to have some fun a few times a year and celebrate, you know, the work and our efforts that we're putting in. And you know, we're doing a really good job of that. And there's a lot of people that have been inspired to build, you know, more Hugel style beds and try to work these practices in, try to create some great genetics, trying to find great hash runners. You know, all that is absolutely motivated by this Sungrown celebration. And you know, and I could just feel the culture building on itself, and people even diversifying as farmers and you know, getting more crafty with their endeavors, and you know, a lot of different outcomes that are coming out of this, but a lot of education too.
it is a cool event to be able to talk to everybody. One of my favorite parts too is there's a dinner that's served. You get to sit down, share a meal. It's pretty intimate, I guess. Kind of makes it more of an intimate event where you're hanging out, more of a family event type community. So I thought that was pretty cool effect that dinner had.
So there's a question for Nick in the chat. Looking to pop the Bicket times work from Nick Salvista? Salvista? Wondering when it finishes for this year.
It's a badass.
Yeah, here's a Salvisor right here.
It's a badass.
Yeah, that probably doesn't look good me zooming from a distance, but the Salvice's Bigot OG to the work outdoors this year. I killed it. That's the plant that went 17 foot, 25 foot wide. Outdoors, man, I pushed these girls to October 25th. Indoors, I get a good 66 days on them. There was one of them that went 59. That's coming in from the work. The Bicket can go long term, really long term. So this is definitely shorter than the Bicket. You'll also get some completely different Bicket smells. There's some work leaning ones, Bicket leaning ones, and there's a middle of the road one. This one right here is the middle of the road. So that's what I was actually been smoking on a little bit during this live.
And the Bicket leaning is going to be real rank, stinky, funky, nasty smelling.
I hate saying candy gas, but the ones that are in the middle, the work is Black Lime Reserve, Royal Kush, Skittles, and Pam. So it's very lime, skittly, Royal Kush type, more, type of funk. And then you bring the Bicket in there, it's like a candy gas. That's the hot term right now. So I hate saying that, just because of that. But then the Pam throws some cheese on it and fucks it all up, and it goes out of that. So there's all kinds of the Pam from Family Tree Seeds that I bred with threw some crazy cheese smells into all my stuff. The mel I used. So it's been fun. I stay in my own lane here. I just really grow half my shit. Even the other plants that I grow outdoors, like the Medellin, the Gary Payton, and Mean Gene's Coca-Cola root beer. I've been growing those for 4 years in a row here outdoors. I've just got very used to the same plants. My wife tells me I need to grow more fruity, just straight fruity strains to diversify with people. But yeah, I like gas, man, and dank, and cheese, and fuel, and meat, and the weirdest smells in cannabis that I don't like in real life. Like if I open up a jar and I'm like, oh, this smells like the underarm pits of somebody on a hot, stanky day. Let's roll that up and smoke that shit. Yay. I smell that in real life. I'm like, man, you need to take a fucking bath and use some deodorant, dude. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Move them shoes outside, man. You can't take them off in here.
Yeah, like but that's the terps I like. My Bicket is weirdly foul. So it's yeah, I'm like two
Getting
joints.
back to, I just want to add another note on, the judging for the competition. Last year, regardless of, like Nick says, he likes a lot of these strong, meaty off flavors, but even for the competition, it's very interesting because, as he said too, that you can't deny, when a strain looks good and, whatever you think it is, if it's done proper, it's done proper. You have to give that proper recognition. But, at the end of the day, there was Tropicana, there was papaya, there was cherry, there was a GMO strain that was up in there. There was some of Sean with Rising Moon has his Pine Sol OG and his Manistee OG. So there was a broad spectrum of flavors, a broad spectrum of heavy hitters that you kind of would expect to come forward in a competition. And so, it's not all just gas that gets pushed through. There, variety of flavors, do well and perform well, and then we ultimately get to let the the fans vote, and everybody gets to have their own little scorecard and go check all the flower, or check out the top entries, and then we count those fan favorites up and see which
See,
ones were, highly coveted there.
that's been what's a little interesting about the DGC Cup. You see a lot of the variety that we're talking here, from citrus to gas. The last couple years, it's been like tropical cookies, and the last one was like an orange citrus. Like, these are the profiles that I've seen winning lately, which is interesting to me because it's like, what are people really looking for anymore? What are, because I remember vanilla being around, and I don't see shit like that no more. And the cantaloupe haze, stuff like that, I don't see those flavors out anymore.
Yeah, the haze really got played back. And I don't really understand that. That's one that, is kind of baffling to me, other than it's a very much a hash culture right now. And so, I know myself that a lot of the genetics that I keep, I like genetics that do good in flower, but they also do good in hash. Just in a lot of the haze strains, they're just not, you don't ever see those hash numbers. So I think that's a big reason why they played out. But, there's some heavy hitters, the silver hazes and things like that back in the day were top shelf strains that people ran for. And not even necessarily
flower.
too long ago,
I
just
smoke
5-10
a
years
lot
ago.
of flower. Chris likes hash, and I know that, but I'm a straight flower smoker. But my farm, 80% of my outdoor goes to hash. It goes to Turp Wizard or Organitron, turn it into hash. And it's excellent hash because that's the market, what people on the market want right now. But you were talking about the Tropicana cookies and things like that. I think citrus and those type of strains do better outdoors. They cure better from outdoors. Fruity strains cure better than outdoors. Gas, danker strains have a real problem curing from outdoors to not go into that hay category when they get cured. That goes, like it just something didn't turn out right.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got high cherry terpenes or high limonene terpenes, and you open that up, you're like, wow, that's pungent, versus, yeah, some of these OGs, it is hard to cure that right and have that come forward.
But the cherry, those especially lemon terpenes seem to still stay there, even if it's a worse cure. It wasn't as good of a cure. The lemon or the cherry or citrus are going to stay there a little bit. Something straight gas, if it's, and then those categories, if it's fucked up on the cure, it's fucked up on the cure.
No, that cantaloupe haze that DNA Genetics had, I grew that years ago, and like, even after the flower was out of the jar, it still smelled like cantaloupe. Like, that's how the profile on that was. And man, I have not seen that shit for years.
Well, I've got a not White Tahoe cookies, a plant that it's got a funny name to it. I got it off 4 Wise Eyes. It's a fire plant. Excuse me, fire terpenes. This year, when I chopped her down, I left her sitting too long to get like a lot of it, like in a big pile, like pulling it in totes. I lost the cure on it, man. I don't think I never got it back from that day on, just it getting smashed down. We were dealing with so much bicket that day. And I bring that up because those cake strains are harder also to pull off in the cure from outdoor to indoor. Where cherry and grape and Tropicana cookies and things like that in the citrus category are a little easier to pull down. Work was easier for me to pull down. My work, which is a Black Lime Reserve to Royal Kush Skittles, and it was easier to fucking pull down because of all the citrus terps in it. Outdoors,
yeah, that's why I like my Ivory Royal Starflower so much, because it's it's got some grapefruit inside of it, and so that pungent fruit is going to come forward, but it's not like a tangy, but it's like florally and it's grapefruity, and it always just smacks people, and they're like, damn, it's undeniably something interesting.
I do like that strain of yours. So yeah, it's just but this is just the ramblings of me. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about half time anyway. I just think on the cure though, from my plants that I do, that's fucking hard for me to cure indoors. It's a lot harder. Like from bringing it from outdoors, because everything of ours goes into our indoor flower room with mini splits and humidifiers. Keep it at as close as I can to 60-60. The fruit strains do a little better off that. So,
Well, my question to that then, Nick, is it because like being outdoors and the environment with the rain and the wind, do you think that's making the waxy part of the resin glands a little different than indoors, especially when it comes to curing?
absolutely. But you get your trade off. I breed indoors. All my breedings have always been indoors. All my testing is indoors. I've done a lot. I got busted indoors 20 years ago. But yo, to me, Sungrown, make no mistake about it, Sungrown rules supreme. Um, Sungrown terps, the greasiness, the oilness that comes from all that outdoor exposure. I'm not talking about greenhouse grown. I'm not talking about light depth. I'm talking about full fucking sun, getting hit with every element it is, spider dicks, caterpillar fucking shells, blah, 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 blah. Like, let me smoke it all, dog. I'll take all the terps. Let me have that stuff. It gets me higher. It makes me happier. It fills my lungs. That shit don't get stuck right here. That goes down into the lungs. That's the stuff I want to smoke. So, man, I don't even remember what the original question is. I done got off on a tangent about Sungrown. It gets me higher. It is greasier. It almost feels like you're smoking a cigarette with your joint. Like it's like it gets down into the lungs. And that water, rain, wind, everything else. If it's pulled off right, there's no mold, if it's done correctly, it's fucking top notch. If it's not done correctly, though, even one element's off, it fucks it all up. Hell, we had to cut 2 plants down and throw them away this year from Septoria. Out of the blue, Septoria just hit them, and just shriveled them. And people will be like, well, don't run those strains again. Nah, I had the same exact strain on another part of the farm and it was fine. It's just the luck of the draw sometimes. Sometimes rain hits at weird times. Last year in Michigan, we went to November 17th outdoors. This year, everything was down by October 26th, here. But the outdoor, that gives it its individual character. This year, my Medellin, that's the 4th year in a row I've grown her outdoors this year. This year, I ain't even selling it like it's mine. It's mine, all of it. My wife looked at me like, all of it, all of it, all of it. I'm smoking it all. Like,
This year, Nick, this next year, just thinking about, problems with Septoria and things like that. Next year, when we start seeing Septoria issues, the plants that don't have Septoria, we should send in like a leaf sap analysis of the plants that, are doing really, really well. And then maybe another leaf sap of something that wasn't doing well. And I bet you that there's going to be something that is identified in a sap analysis.
Correct. But I had weird issues with this, Chris. I'm not as smart as you on this, but like I would get Septoria on 2% of my plant, like one little area over to the left on a monster plant. And it was like after rain, and I'm like, this shit's coming down in the dew. We were real wet in the fall this year, not just all nonstop rain, just wet in the mornings, and dew would be all over plants. And in places that coagulated where the sun didn't dry that out, what would end up, I got it and had to cut it out on plants. And I'm like, this is freaking weird. It's not soil borne, like the whole plant's infected. It was just like this one little spot of the entire plant, and I'm like, that's odd as hell. So I haven't figured that out yet. We got to do more on that. But
it deserves a lot of research, Septoria in general, because it's a problem in gardening as a whole. All plants, get it. Tomatoes.
It was on everything here. It was on the maple trees, the tomato plants, the squash. It was on the freaking pine trees, man. On the corn. My neighbor was talking to me about it. He does 6,000 acres of soybean and corn, and he was like, "I've never seen this before." I was like, "It's Septoria." It was on his soybeans, and So it's just another thing you battle outdoors. In 4 or 5 years, we won't deal with that. We'll deal with crazy spider mites that ride in here on tanks. I mean, it's always fucking something. Each year you got to adapt something. 3 years ago for me, it was aphids. Them things were fucking insane. This year,
Shit, it was rusted mites for me that hit me out of nowhere. Just like, damn.
yeah, that was 4 years. Yeah, I lost a lot of shit on that one.
I
Now
still
my
think some
wife
of
does
that
cut
damage
flowers.
though.
That helps. My wife, that's a good thing to promote with your significant other. Like, do cut flowers because that brings in a shit ton of beneficial bugs, predatory insects like predatory wasp, things like that. Um, and that's what all the plants are surrounded by. So you create that biodiversity out there, and it does help things. Um, but that's what we try to showcase at this event. And it's cool for other farmers to link up with other farmers. There's some dude in there that doesn't have anybody to really be like, hey, man, what happens if you deal with this problem? And hey, I'd like to grab some seeds. And some people don't do a IG and trying to let them know, like, hey, we're doing this thing. We're just trying to showcase any sun-grown organic outdoor farmer. And we take everybody's word for it. Last year, we had to throw away a couple entries that straight up were indoor fucking grown weed. Like all of us were in agreement, like, yo, man, that's indoor. Like all of us like, that's indoor on one of them. To promote the farmer, to make resources, to show people where you can get organic things at. Frass Valley was there. Country Roots were there. I try to push people over to Jet House to talk to him last year. But
Yeah,
Country Roots
Jet House is going to be there, and this year we got Earthcraft Biosystems is coming. I think that Bakashi brand guys are coming down, and then we got MI Beneficials is coming.
Michigan Beneficials will be there. That is just an awesome resource.
And then I also distribute with Organics Alive and Dragonfly Earth Medicine. So I always just kind of bring some different things to kind of represent for, some of these other companies as well. But, like I say, someday we might actually be able to get everybody here and have, a bigger style event. But, either way, it's a great event. And, we're very honored to be able to put this together and have this fun with these, all the growers in Michigan. And, really kind of keeps the plant potential moving and lets people see what's good and what's not. It kind of, teaches people about, what real cannabis is about because, there's a lot of people that are interested in growing, especially outside, they might want to just throw a couple of plants or maybe even just one plant behind their damn garage or something like that. And, they could go get some bullshit, something from somewhere, or they could, tap in and pay attention to people that are really doing it. And they should set you up with a plant that you're going to be just blown away by and, completely amazed. So that, that's also what we're trying to do here.
And that's
Hey,
fun.
Chris, real quick, Nick. Hey, Chris, why don't you tell anybody that's listening that might want to enter the competition how they can go about doing that, and anybody that's listening that might want to attend how they can go about doing that real quick, just so they know.
Yeah, good question. We are collecting entries up till December 1st, so all through next week. I did post a schedule, and I'll repost a schedule on my Instagram page and Facebook page. It's at Country Roots Ltd. You could also email me at countryrootsltd@gmail.com, and you can reach out that way. But as long as you message me or get in contact with us some way in the next week, I'm happy to figure out an arrangement to collect your entry. We're doing flower and hash entries. And then we also have an edible entry this year too. So, people that are getting creative in the kitchen and want to try to make something up. The only thing that we ask there is that you're using, rosin or kief or natural cannabis oils. We do have a no BHO restriction in this event. I understand a lot of people are working with BHO, but we're trying to put forth the best possible medicine potential that we can. And, and right now we just want to stick with the solventless rosins and natural grown flowers. But happy to collect any entries. And we still got tickets available. There's only actually a couple of VIP tickets. I got to talk to Nick here soon. We're probably only going to let a couple more of them sell. So if somebody wants a VIP, they better grab that. But other than that, There is dining tickets, and then there are general entry tickets if you want to come. From noon to 5, we just have a general entry where anybody can come and meet the growers and go through, check out the fan favorite options, and just be a part of the event. Not everybody cares to sit down and eat per se and do that portion of it. So we want to have it inviting to everybody. And then at the end of the night, we're going to do the award ceremony, and we call out the winners of the Sungrown celebration for this year. And then I'll say one last thing. There is another thing that we do interesting about this trophy competition is I think it's kind of cool to have the grower's name on the trophies. You see a lot of events just put, first place flower, and then they hand that to people, and then they have that. Our trophies actually come after the event, and so I collect information what the grower wants me to put on the trophy, and then we have trophies customized to the winners, and then we just mail them to them after the event. So a very unique experience and a very rewarding experience. If you could win one of these trophies, you should absolutely pat yourself on the back, whether it's first, second, or third place. You put forward a phenomenal product for the years with that.
Man, the most important part of this, wait just one second here, take him. For me was to possibly connect outdoor farmers to the general public. Meet the farmer. Hey, I come from an era of prohibition where you could never meet the farmer, where you never could, actually like do something like that. All the products here that'll be at the event are nice. Morganja Farm stood beside us, like our booth last year. Rascal Farmer was beside us. These were Morganja. We half our Thanksgiving was from his hogs. On his farm, we buy hogs from him. These are organic, true organic farmers that are there. Meet people, introduce yourself, have a good time. Every single booth is giving out freaking outdoor Sungrown just to try it, different things. There is stuff to judge on. It is a good freaking time. And as far as VIP, we're cutting that after this weekend. It is worth it. That's all I'm going to say. It was worth it last year. Ask anybody that got VIP.
What is the VIP like? What comes with that? Just say it real quick.
Well, last year, I don't know. Last year, I threw. VIP was $250, and it's food, shirt, entry. I threw in a lot of rosin and flowers from our farm, just as a gift. So did Country Roots. I threw in 4 packs of seeds. So did Country Roots threw in seeds. Vegan threw in seeds. Boaz threw in seeds. Somebody. Smoking Storks doing something. It was there were edible. It was nice for the ticket, So we're doing that again this year. It's very limited, and we hope to have a good time. I mean, it's no drama. Everybody gets along, has a really good time. So
that's what I remember about it. There's more than enough seeds to cover what we paid for the dang VIP thing. So it was well worth it.
The seeds alone cover the VIP package, and then you get an awesome dinner, a T-shirt, and then you're gonna get to sample some of Nick and I's flowers and hash. And then some of our sponsors and the supporters of the event, we asked them if they want to donate anything, and so any seed breeders, people just want to throw something in there. So it's. Everybody said last year, it was well worth the value, and we're going to make it well worth the value. That's why we're limiting it. I can't try to sell 200 of these packs and then expect everybody to
I lose on the VIP. I did last year. Me and Chris been friends for 4 years. We've had one argument. It was on the VIP last year. Like we lose on a VIP. We just want people to have a good time, to showcase everything. That was. To promote other people. There's not a lot of that right now. The economy's bad. Everything else is bad. There ain't a lot of promoting other people. Hey, come in here, check out other farmers. This guy does this. This guy specializes in this. This guy does this. This guy does this. This guy sells worms. This guy sells minerals. This guy's Smiley, and so that was the whole atmosphere last year. And I hope to God we can just repeat last year's atmosphere. It don't even have to be better than last year, just repeating last year's atmosphere. It was great. So.
Yeah, it is a cool lineup of booths or whatever, people that are there. I mean, you could buy chocolate from the candy man down to pick up a hog from Morganja, and you know what I mean, go right down, get some amendments and some worm castings while you're there, and be out.
It really was a wide range of, but it was also all true farm products. It's not a lot of this stuff is done. It's a lot of labor, man. People think this shit's easy outdoor.
Let's talk about that real quick. That's important with what our overall goal of this Sungrown celebration. There are a lot of events, there's like a lot of people just like brokering, for other people. Like they just work for a grower, or they're just some sort of representative of these people there. And, I get that that's going to happen, but that's kind of a ridiculous market, in this type of a market, And so, we want to work with people who want to stand behind their products, and, they stand with, and everybody knows, because they're just, showing, advertising it through the year for the most part. And, that's an important, thing to keep in contact with in this community is the real OG growers, and people that, truly care and are truly trying to, further the plant, not just grow the latest booth and call that top shelf and, you're a winner, right?
That is for sure. There was a lot of unique flower in the competition. I remember that. A lot of the, guys growing pretty unique stuff to their farms. That was cool. You didn't hear like whatever names, gelatos. Yeah.
No, there was a lot of unique, more. I mean, when it gets into Michigan farms, a lot of this stuff is stuff they've done, they've created, or they've been working with for a while, or is climatized to their farm. It is Rascal Farmer. Some of the strains he's growing, he's 10, 12 years deep on his farm, growing on his soil. That's the fun part about it. Last year, I had never smoked traditional hash out of a chillum until last year's Sungrown with Rascal. That was fun. It is where you was talking, Smiley, about you can get a hog off more ganja, you can get worm castings off Jet House, you can get mineral soil, everything else off Country Roots. Dutch Bloom sold sourdough there last year, sourdough bread. My wife still has that going, the sourdough that she makes stuff out of. It was we bought soap and candy there last year that were from farms. It was a whole lot different atmosphere, and trying to promote people from that. Times are tight. Times are tight for everybody. I understand that, and there are a lot less people growing. The people that are growing, it's hard to even broadcast that in a sense. I can't be like, hey, I've got a Black Friday sale on flour today, or anything. I can't. I'd like to, man. What's up? But you can't do that. So these events are important to at least meet people, because these are the right type people. And I truly mean that. These are people that grow with intention. They grow certain strains and they stick with these strains. Rascal Farmer's Vortex has been with him for how long? My worker Bickett,
and it makes sense to do it this way. Nick, he used to be a part of some whiskey competitions. I used to be a part of beer competitions. I've made hundreds of beers. And that's how you go to these trade show events, and everybody comes forward, with some different recipes and some different things. And that's how new things get, showcased, and that's how new things get pushed forward, and new flavors get created. And, you know, it just keeps the industry fun overall. You know, besides all the benefits that it creates, it makes it, you know, a blast. And you look forward to these things through the year, and that's what we want. You know, we want that vibe for the Sungrown celebration.
Oh no, I had a blast last year. I had a blast. I had friends from college that came up from Kentucky. Um, I had my Michigan friends there. Dutch Blooms flew out. We were all there. I smoked that much weed. I was wearing a fur coat with Tommy Trichomes and Kazoo Kush. I had a freaking blast last year at this event. Like, it was freaking fun. At the
See,
end of the year, working that damn hard, trimming every freaking day, doing that type of shit, you know, and then to get out and get with other growers that understand that, smoke
see
their
now
stuff, you
you
know.
guys make me want to come out to Michigan because I've
Come
been
on
to
out,
events
man. We're
in
getting there and
Colorado.
do.
I've been events in Las Vegas and Southern California. You know, like I haven't gone to Michigan to try some of these events, and now you guys are really kind of making me
Dude,
want to
we'll
come
have
out
an
and check it out.
Airbnb, man. You come out, like, we'll get extra ones. Come out, you come out. You
Yeah,
know,
this one, you know, this one
smoking
we do it
stuff.
in December. You know, we kind of have to do it now. You know, it's a Sungrown celebration, celebrating, you know, the year's Sungrown cannabis. You know, we don't want to wait till January to have it. And it's like in Michigan, you know, the longer we wait in December, January, the weather just gets pretty ferocious, you know. So it's tougher. And I don't want to wait till 2024, but you know, getting back to earlier conversations, you know, we are talking heavily about having something, you know, in the summer type of months, whether it's in the spring or in the summer or the fall. We got some variables to put together, but we got something interesting that we really want to try to work on. And, you know, I would like it to be like a 2 day thing. That way people could come out and it doesn't feel quite so rushed. Give us time to have some more talks. We can have some panel talks on, you know, growing cannabis and cultivating cannabis, breeding cannabis, you know, have a hash panel of people talking about, you know, hash productions and things like that. You know, have some different growers with some different style techniques. Like if we could bring a little bit of that to it, that would be great. But you know, right now it's like it's hard just to judge all the cannabis in one day for the Sungrown. But we want to try to do something. You know, we'll see exactly what we put together, but we want to have something, you know, in the warmer months too. And it also allows us to, you know, work outside a little bit, so you can have indoors and outdoors. Find a place that can accommodate both, and then you can have a lot more people and makes it easier to travel. But you know, if you're willing to travel, come on out. You know, we got people coming. Even last year, there's people from New York, Chicago, Vermont. You know, multiple different states do travel out here, and you know, we want to keep that going too.
Oh, I see it all the time. Like going to the DGC Cup and the High Times Cannabis Cups. I've watched people come all over from Georgia, New York, California, Texas, Florida, you know, like, oh shit, people will travel to come to these events. And that's what's so great. Like you guys are talking, how you meet so many different people at these events over these times and who you get to hang out with, like people you follow on YouTube or Instagram. If you follow these people and you get to meet them, like that's what I think's what's
I mean,
enjoyable about the community.
forever we've been just watching these breeders and these growers online, and it's like to actually be able to meet them and see the seeds and then see the flower and the hash that they produce from their stuff. Like there's nothing better than that if you're truly a fan of the culture, you know. And that's just it. Most of us are pretty tapped in like that, and we do care. And you know, we're you know, following hundreds of people, you know, perhaps 1,000 or a couple thousand people. We're, you know, we're pretty tuned in. I don't even know how many people I'm tuned in, but I know it's a couple of thousand people that, you know, I actively care about the work that they're putting out each year. And, you know, we want to bring that and have a place where we can, you know, showcase that in Michigan for sure.
Well, it's like going to what the SoCal. I got to meet Jinx Proof. I've got to meet Subcool. Like going to these different events on the West Coast, I got to meet different people than I do like in Michigan. So it's kind of nice to travel to these other events as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's something I'll say that, you know, I wish I've done a little bit more. Nick actually went out to Humboldt. He invited me to come out there with him a couple years ago, and I was really sorry I couldn't go. I manage a lot here, so it's tough for me to get out much myself. You know, I got a whole farm production and a soil company, and you know, a family, And so it's like for me to leave, it's pretty tough. But that's another thing I'd like to do, and probably could count on Nick and I going together if it does happen. But I would like to get out to a couple of these events out in California and Vegas, and maybe Oklahoma, maybe something on the East Coast too. The East Coast is blowing up, and so I hope to get out a little bit over the next couple of years, a little more as well.
I'm just looking forward to smoking a lot of fucking weed, And last year I ate so much damn food from more ganja farms. This year he's gonna be there again. It is such a good vibe of a time after harvest. Harvest is hard. I've been sitting in this chair since September 16th, every day trimming, bucking for hash, selections, trimming. I took off for Thanksgiving yesterday and today. Other than that, it's just boom, boom. Harvest is hard when it's just a small farm, it is a total break from all that stuff and getting to hang out with people. And that's what it's kind of all about. A little bit of letting your hair down last year. People come in for this thing. I had guys, like I said, I had guys come up from Kentucky and Dutch Blooms flying from Washington. But everybody got along. We got snow. There was like this ice snowstorm last year when we had it. That just happened in November. I'm glad it's about 10 days later in the year this year that we put it on. But we really freaking got down last year as far as going through entries and everything. So the networking and the hanging out is much needed. It's a good vibe. I hope all y'all can come. I got to get off here. My wife's gonna make me put together a Christmas tree tonight. It's freaking ridiculous. She's already got half of it going. I appreciate y'all letting me get on. But hey, on the VIP thing, man, seriously, hit up Chris on countryroots.com as far as the VIP, because it's about done. We're pulling that in a couple days. I don't know how many regular tickets are still there. It's not a huge place. Come have a good time. It's worth it. I'll holler at you guys soon, man. Thank you all for having me on.
Appreciate you coming on, Nick. Definitely.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Nick.
Yeah, so the event's in Muskegon, and Muskegon is in West Michigan, on the lakeshore community here. And so, there's north, south, east, and west Muskegon, as there is with every city or whatever. And the venue is in like East Muskegon, but there's tons of Airbnbs and hotels along the lakeshore, particularly. And all that's going to be, within 15 minutes of the venue. And so, if anybody is coming from out of state and, they're looking for a place to stay, look around in Muskegon. This place is in East Muskegon, in the city. It's at a private hall. It's a full like banquet hall. And so they got a full bar and entertainment area and, kitchen and all that for us to, do our thing and really put down. And so we can have up to 300 people here, and we filled it out last year. And so I don't see why we're not going to fill it out again this year. But we will have general admissions up to the date, just because, like I say, I want to have let people be able to just come in from noon to 5 if they want to check it out. So, it is pretty open. And even if it is full, there's some people that just don't stick around very long. They just want to come and, and talk to a couple of growers and, check a couple fan favorites or whatever they want to do. Some people who don't like to hang out in public for more than an hour. So, but the majority of people stay for the whole thing for sure. So it's up to you, whatever you're feeling comfortable with. Like I say, there's a lot of different places to stay in the area. There's a lot of different restaurants and things to do in the area if you come the day before. Like I say, it's right on the lakeshore, so you can go check out Lake Michigan. It's a beautiful beach over there. It's gonna be frozen, but it's pretty cool to see the frozen beach too. And if you want to make a little bit of a trip out of it and do your thing while you're out here, feel free to message me and I'll give you some information on whatever you're looking for. And like I say, we are collecting entries for the next week. So if you have any flower or solventless hash that you'd like to put forward, reach out through us and we'll set up something there. And it's going to be a great time. We are really looking forward to this. I can absolutely feel the buzz that is built from last year. Everybody that had a great time last year. is really excited to come back and enjoy themselves again this year. And, you know, we're all the more prepared, you know, in the sense that it's a lot of work and it's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of careful planning. You know, a lot goes into this type of an event. And, you know, and so, you know, my whole team and our whole crew and everybody, you know, now this machine is pretty well greased. And I did some competitions before. I had a grow store, and so before I used to do competitions, but I would just collect entries and put a group of judges and pick some winners. But we didn't have an actual event for it, you know. And so we turned that into the Sungrown celebration, and now have, you know, a banquet style event, you know, fan favorite selections, and, you know, more outreach that's involved here now, and, you know, much funner experience overall than just, you know, submitting a flower to see, you know, who wins. And so, you know, the people that are entering, you know, they very much like to be a part of this, come see, you know, what really is growing well out there, and, you know, gives them an opportunity to re-strategize for what they're doing next year, and you know, try to put together a little better of a game plan. Because, you know, let's face it, that's what every grower's doing. You know, I don't care if you've been growing for 1 year, for 5 years, or 10 years, everybody's trying to get better. Even the guys that are doing it for 25 plus years, they're still trying to get better. Everybody's trying to dial in their techniques, dial in this and that, looking at these different genetics, looking at these different recipes, these different compounds, these different techniques. You know, there's so many different discussions that go down here, in so many different styles. And, you know, some people are, you know, practicing dry farming techniques. Some people are doing like these Hugelkultur. People are doing traditional pots, big plants, small plants, you know, and, you know, even a variety of these techniques win the competition. And so, you know, that just shows you there's no, you know, one answer for all this. You have to dial in your environment. You have to think hard about the genetics that you want to grow. You have to try to build your soil and build a proper feeding program for your environment. You got to figure out pest management and pathogens and all of that, you know. But these growers that come to these events, they've been doing this forever, and they're happy to talk to you about it, and they're happy to try to give you the tips that you need. And
Well,
you know,
that's the one thing that, like, the weed tube community, you don't see a lot of growers talking about having problems growing and how to try to dial in their grow environments, how to recover from different pests or pathogens that they have during cultivation. Because, like, we were talking like aphids and like different badges that we've all got over the years from dealing with stuff. And that's what's great is going to those events, like you're saying, people are communicating how to deal with this and what they've dealt with, you know, and people are looking for that information because it's not a lot of people are out there talking about it.
no, and, you know, it's hard to talk online. Let's say that too. You know, it's like everybody's getting shadow banned, and, you know, posts getting reported, and, you know, it's a pain in the ass. You know, I got a soil company, and I want to take pictures, and I want to show, and I want to be direct, but I got to be careful. You know, I can't have my page get deleted on me, and so it's hard to, and it's, you know, it's hard to just convey it all in an Instagram post or a Facebook post or whatever too. You know, and so, you know, coming and actually sitting down with the growers, seeing what they're working on and talking about with the techniques, and you could develop this friendship or some sort of a bond. And, you know, all sorts of things continue for the years. You know, there's a lot of us growers that have been, you know, developing and cultivating, you know, our processes together for years now. And, you know, we're still working on
It seems like every year it's a different battle. Some years we get through it just fine, and other years it's like, oh shit, where did this come from? How am I dealing with this?
Well, it's
Going
like
back.
that grapes. I mean, like with the wine industry, you'll hear wine connoisseurs talk about, oh, that was a great year for that type of grape or whatever, you know. So it's going to be like that for cannabis too.
I think, you know, and sometimes it depends on what big agriculture is doing around you, because, you know, there's just like a lot of things that get floated around. But like if they go spray, you know, a bunch of fields in the area, or even, you know, they drop things in trees in the national forest lands to get rid of mosquitoes and all sorts of other bugs. And, you know, if they're not sprayed in your yard, it could just, you know, all of a sudden you got pest pressure in your yard because pests are dying all around, you know, from other things that are being applied to the environment. And so you can just get pest pressures pushed in, you can bring them in, and then, there's obviously like seasonal stuff, the rain and, the freeze and thaw and stuff like that. Some plants can take a decent amount of weather, and some of them just go to shit, as soon as they get, wet and frozen the first time. And so that's other discussions that have had, it's, people that are, bragging that they took these plants to December and fought off, all sorts of tough snow. And that's an interesting strain. And you'll all of a sudden see 12 more people growing that strain next year, if they get the ability to anyways. But yeah, lots of variables and lots of unique variables. And unfortunately, there's a lot of unfortunate circumstances too that people can deal with, that, just environmental pressures.
So how are you like when it comes to different amendments, Chris, and like heavy metals? Because I know there's been a lot of talk and controversy over using different organic amendments that have heavy metals to them, like kelp and a few other ones.
Yeah, so I'm very watchful on it. Part of what I've done for work too is I used to do soil and water sampling professionally for, around the state for an independent firm company. And so it would just do a lot of real estate transactions. The buyer would want to hire a professional geologist to sample the environment to see if there's any toxins in the environment. And so, I've done that for years. And so, I keep a watchful eye on, what the batch analysis is, compost testing, and, I'm very careful. And, I will say that one of my overall things too is I try not to ever have to overload. I think growers, they'll be like, all of a sudden, kelp is the hot thing. Everyone's like, man, you got to use kelp. And then all of a sudden they're overloading kelp. They're, they're just amending their soils with a bunch of kelp and using, heavy. I don't know exactly what people do. These are things that go through my mind, and I imagine it is true to an extent. So one of the things, if I use kelp, like I'm using it I don't ever use kelp very heavy because I know that's one that could be, have a problem. And so as long as you don't overload it, hopefully your overall soil isn't going to become a contaminated mess. And so my solution there is, you have to break down what each individual soil input is useful for. Is it, a CalMag product? Is it a nitrogen product? Look at the batch analysis of that product and figure out, what its chemical, usage is. And then I want to have, multiple forms of calcium, multiple forms of magnesium, multiple forms of potassium, multiple forms of phosphates. And that way I only have to use a little bit of all the different products that I use. And, I could come up with something that, has a nutrient balance to it too. I avoid overloading. I don't ever want to have to use too much of anything. Even dolomite or gypsum, people will dump those on and you can choke your plants right out by, just doing too much. So, there's, we can always add more. That's the other thing, especially when you're amending your soils, I always say, treat it like you're seasoning your meat or your food or, something that you're going to cook. You wouldn't want to overload it and then eat that. So, season it slowly. And if you want to come back in a couple of days and season it again, you can always do that. So yeah, in the soils that I make, I'm trying not to make an overly hot soil. I want it to be a robust soil and nutrient dense and all that. But I want people to be able to take a clone and put it in there and not burn the shit out of that clone too, and I also recognize that, people, like to use various concoctions, whether you're using, some of their own concoctions that they make in terms of like ferments and jadam type stuff, or they're using like Dragonfly Earth Medicine, Organics Alive, or Earthpack Biosystems, Country Roots products, Build a Soil products. A lot of growers are using a variety of these, and some of them have, things from all of these guys, and they're just kind of randomly using things here and there. And so, they kind of learn how to drive. And so, I overall just avoiding overloading and avoid making my soils too hot to begin with, so people can't drive them in any way, because that's what causes problems for growers.
Absolutely. I like it. I will say it's a little heavier of a bag too, but I like the fact that there's no perlite in it, and it's got some nice aeration amendment that are actually rock and like, yeah.
Yeah, I use a pumice stone in there, and so it's a ridiculously expensive stone that I have shipped out here from Idaho to put in there. But it's a natural stone. Perlite. They say that it is harmful to some insects, like it can actually cut worms and things like that. And overall, it's not as good for the environment and the landfills and our water systems and things like that. So, if I want to be a living soil provider, I don't see how I can use perlite in my main blend. And that pumice, it makes it a lot heavier. And so that just makes it difficult to mail and a little more difficult to transport around. And it also can make it difficult in small pots, like using like really small pots, put a clone in there. It'll be healthy for a few weeks or maybe even a month. But if it's too small, you might have to transplant it after like a month or something and give it, a bigger pot to go into. Versus, some of these lighter soils and people are just kind of nutrient feeding them, through chemical feeds or whatever. So it's a different process of driving the soil. Um, but I will say too, as a soil company, I recognize that I can't just be like, this is the only soil I'm going to make, and so I am open to custom style recipes, especially if people have, a sizable order of a few yards, preferably 5 yards really gets my interest. And if you have a specific style recipe that you want me to work with or, add, more aeration or perlite, I do that for people. I'm not going to gripe about that one bit. I want to be, an open soil company. Especially for the outdoor farmers, they typically, have a little bit more of a demand. And so, we're open to work with that. And, I will say too that I got something on my back pocket here, of a different type of super soil that I think I'm going to come out with as well, just to have it'll just be different than my main, living soil blend. The main blend, that is a true regenerative soil, that can work. I need something else that is lighter, that can do lighter pottings, and for people that have heavier feeding programs. So I think I'm going to have another type of soil that is ready to go for people that have a different style of feeding program. But it'll still all be organics. I'm still going to use all natural amendments in there, and not have to use anything funky in there whatsoever. So I'll use it too, because it's part of my projects is, plant nurseries and things. And, I do a lot of vegetable gardening and things like that. So, I need a lighter soil blend too, for getting some of my starts and, some of my other plants going and propagating those through. So, it's all means to the other. And, I want to have things that are versatile for the growers, and, try to have discussions with people and make it very clear on what the intentions are.
Oh yeah. Now, do you do soil testing? Like, if I had my garden and I wanted to test the soil, is that and get a recommendation on how to re-amend and all that? Is that something they can do?
Yes, absolutely. I 100% encourage that. That allows people to know, especially if you're continuously growing in soils and you're amending them, and sometimes people don't test them very often. I recommend once a year, for living soil guys, that, some of them are doing it every single round. But, at least once a year, you might have 4 cycles in a year, maybe even 5 cycles. But, it's nice to see where you're at, because you could be getting away with something that's creeping up on you. This plant tolerance is pretty high. And, your nutrient imbalance, if it gets but once it's too far off, it gets kind of hard to correct it. And it has to be done fairly slowly. You can't just correct it overnight. It's going to take some time and some work. And
What?
so,
You
yeah,
mean I can't just top dress and throw a bunch of stuff on it to help it right away?
no, not always. Especially if it's overloaded with anything, then we got to be tricky about that and try to get some inert type of materials or other materials that don't have any of that nutrient in it to try to offset it and balance it. And like I say, you never want to overload. So you can't, you got to do it slowly, even if it is an imbalance. I always tell people, do a top feed and water it for a couple of weeks, and then you put a little more on and do it again, because it's going to take time for that nutrient to kind of leach through the soil and actually work its way through to begin with. So, having it in successions and just having it work down over periods of time, I find, is the process, and that's the way you want to do it. But yeah, I do
So,
soil testing, and so all I need is a sandwich-sized bag of soil, and we can send that in and get analysis, and I'll give you my feedback on it. And then I also, I have a full line of amendments. I have over, 60 different products, that we can use to help amend soils. And then I give people a discount. If they use my consultation analysis, then you're going to get 20% off your inputs as well. So, it's a win. Want to work with it.
so on using different amendments, like the breakdown time, because each of them are a little different. Can you explain that to some people and why you may add some things differently?
Yeah, and so, like I say, when I'm building soil, I want to have multiple different, types of products that are nutrient dense and kind of look at the spectrum of nutrients. But, that's one way to look at it. But the other way is, what is the size of the granules? Is it, you want some, micronized things. The micronized substances are going to get through there a little bit quicker versus some of the more granular stuff. It's going to be a slower breakdown. And so, like the micronized stuff, you can dust that pretty good on the soil. Like when I do like a dusting of gypsum, I usually don't ever just do gypsum. Like I like wollastonite, gypsum, and dolomite combo. And so again, I'm not overloading. That's multiple CalMag substances plus wollastonite, bring some silica in there. And so I'll mix it up, and then I like to sprinkle it on, and it looks like a powder haven on the top of the soil. But as soon as I water it 2 times, you can't see any of that micronized dolomite, gypsum, or wollastonite. It runs right in there. But the thicker granular stuff, you have to spread that on a little bit thinner, and let that kind of break down and, use that a little more sparingly, I guess. So, you're looking at the size of the particles as well as, how well they're going to soak in, and try to avoid overloading.
Do you recommend building like horizontal systems where there's more like a sand in the bottom and rocks in the bottom, and then more of the organic layers like the horizons like that?
Yeah. Like that's a difficult discussion. Like, I think that like there is some discussion of people to just go out and find like some rock, some sand, and some organic and just layer that and grow in it. You absolutely can do that, but it takes some skill and you might completely screw it up. That's all I want to say about that, is it could go really bad for you. Just multiple reasons. You don't know exactly what you're working with some of these things, and you don't know how they're going to interact with one another. It could create, a big mold outbreak or something funky throughout it. And that's why, getting some actual built soil, from a soil company that, that you really like. And particularly, one of these living soil type companies, if that's what your goal is, I wouldn't want to put anything else in there. But, my beds, so I have beds indoors, and I brought a lot of outdoor materials in there. I brought, logs in there from outside of my farm. I brought rocks in there. I brought leaves in there. I brought biochar in there. So I just kind of put in the bottom of my bed, some charred up logs, some, mycelium rich, kind of halfway rotten logs from along my creek area. And had this nice dense kind of forest bottom to the base of my beds, and then I just put my soil mix on top of that. And actually on top of that, I put all that native stuff from my farms, and then I put some of our mineral blends on top of that, and some of our worm castings on top of that, and then I put my soil on top of that. And so it's this big engine, but half of it is developed soil. And that is going to get you a recipe for success right out the bat. You're just going to grow tremendously. You do want to be careful, when you're bringing in logs and other things from outside. Do your best to look at it and try to see if there's bugs on it that you don't want in there. If there's anything in it that looks foreign at all, like, for one, people can bring in termites. There could be some termites in wood, and you get termites in your beds. I'm gonna tell you right now, I've had this happen, not inside, but I've had termites hit one of my hugel beds, and they just eat your roots right out, kill that plant down immediately. Um, so you do got to be careful. And that's why charring things is really good too. If you are bringing in logs from outside, you can start a fire, throw them logs in there and let them burn for a little bit and then put them out immediately. And that's going to kill off, some of the bugs that are inside of there. It could kill off some of your indigenous microorganisms as well, but it's creating a little less risk when you're bringing that inside. You don't have to worry quite as much outside, but again, I didn't worry, and I still had some issues too. And I've heard of some other top tier growers that have had some issues, and so you just have to be careful of your materials. And things are environmental. There's ants and termites everywhere, and different bugs all through soils. And so when you create a nice big organic haven, it's going to attract some different bugs. And so some people can have it worse than others, but you got to be prepared. These are the things that we deal with as gardeners. We got to face the fact. You're hearing us talk here. We all dealt with every single pest that we can imagine. We've all dealt with, mildews and molds, but you got to learn to adapt and roll through it. And, the people that are determined, they're just going to keep going with it and be more strategic in their moves. And that's how we continue to evolve as growers.
Well, and that's what I think a lot of people like us, we have tried a lot of different things over time, and that's why we're trying to put the information out there so people can kind of learn from our experiences as well as try some of it out themselves. Because many times people ask me about like soil recipes, and I'm like, really, you're going to have to try it out to figure out what works for you, because what I do may not work for you. You may not like what comes out. And so I try to explain that to some people, in that sense.
Yeah, that is a difficult thing, and it is each their own. And that was something that was difficult for me coming out with a soil company. It's like, last thing I want to do is screw up a bunch of gardeners, situation here. But the reality is, people do it different. I've been very fortunate that, I got hundreds of people growing my soil, and we've had very little complaints at all. The people that we work with, they generally know how to drive the soil and work it and not overload it or whatever. But yeah, there is a variety of things, and you have to think about, are you going to feed it for one? Like, are you going to have any type of feed program at all? Or are you just trying to run water only? And so people ask me that for here and there too. In my soil, it works great water only. I have a bunch of people that grow in it water only. I always just say that you need an appropriate sized pot if you're going to go water only. You can't expect to get a 5-gallon pot of soil, and by the time you hit flower, it's going to lose its energy immediately. And so you have to, for one, a nice thing to do, for people that are running pots, generally you want to up pot and then you veg for like 1 or 2 more weeks and flower, within a couple weeks after you up pot. And that way your roots are still spreading out, right in the beginning of flower, because you don't want to lose your energy right away. So I always say, try not to use 5-gallon pots. Hopefully you can put a little more budget and get together. Even 7 gallons just miraculously does a lot better than 5 gallons. But 10 gallons and even bigger are easier to drive. People, could do really good water only in like 25, 45-gallon pots. But then the other thing is, that I do is teas. We do a compost tea, and I make, we have our own composting operation. So I make a compost blend, and then I put, other amendments and nutrients inside of it that are soluble, and that things that I know that, are beneficial to teas. And you can bubble that. I recommend starting it the night before and then feed it the next day, in some sort of an aerated system. But that has, a full spectrum of nutrients to it. There's a lot of ways people are doing this, and most of them, are pretty beneficial. They're going to have a variety of nutrient inside of them. but I assure that mine is balanced. And and so a couple of teas right before flower, and then a couple of teas the first couple weeks of flower just keeps that engine really going. And so there's a variety of ways to do teas, like Roots Organics has like some soluble teas, and there's some other companies that just have soluble powders that, kind of instantaneously provide a full spectrum tea. So, I like the people that have a little bit of tools to the punch. I do kind of notice that kind of can set them apart, when they know how to use a few things at the right time. But I will say too, water only can bring out some really nice, wholesome, clean smoking flowers. And so, kind of is each their own in a sense too, and I appreciate them all in an extent.
So do you feel, because I know I do, using a little bit more variety of these different amendments helps the genetic potential of the plant express itself better?
Yeah, so I guess one thing that is kind of going around this industry is like calcium and silica. So when we build a soil, I can only put so much calcium and silica in there to start with. If I overload that soil with too much calcium and silica right out the gate, it's going to have problems for people in various ways. And the other thing is the plant takes up a lot of calcium. That's like one of the main nutrients that it's uptaking. And so it's naturally eating a lot of calcium. And so, having a feed program that is, for one, just trickling in calcium and silica to some extent seems to be very important to me, so that the plant just doesn't lose its overall energy and its overall strength. It's not so much nitrogen. A lot of people are like nitrogen, nitrogen, nitrogen. I tell you right now, talk to regenerative farmers about nitrogen. We don't use anything strong when it comes to nitrogen. There's just natural nitrogen sources a little bit in almost everything we're using. And when you put it together and you get the microbial diversity thriving, a little nitrogen cycle gets moving in your soil and you don't really have to worry about it.
Well,
But you do got to trickle in nutrients still.
a lot of people also are starting to understand too much nitrogen leads to pest and pathogen problems, especially when it comes to laden flower. And so, as regenerative and living soil, I've been trying to explain to people, cut back. Like, you're using all of these nutrients and all of them have nitrogen to them. Just cut back on some of it. If you're adding a full cup, cut back to like half a cup to some of it, because look at the amount of nitrogen you're continuing to add to the soil when you're trying to mix some of this.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, exactly. It causes a lot of problems, and it can make you susceptible to particularly like spider mites and russets and things like that. I don't know what it is, but the plant health states a lot. And the best growers are keeping them plants healthy. And I always say too, like in my cloning strategy, I like to over clone, and that way I don't feel like I have to hold on to every clone and it's just detrimental that this clone doesn't die. I got to let some go, right? And so I want to have some extra clones. And we're not all scientists and analyzing and knowing exactly how well all the roots have shooted and how well the calyx is healed, and all these different variables of the health of that clone. And some of them, you transplant them and they just sit there for a while or whatever. They get pissed off and they go deficient. Things happen with them. And, generally it's a few out of the batch. And so at some point, I like to just get rid of them. I don't want to hold on to problems for too long, because that starts to bring in other problems later. And so, I make sure I have, 4 to 6, clones of the strains that I really want to keep. And in the end, I might only want 2 of them to survive, and I might even transplant them in the soil so I can see how they can grow for a couple of weeks. But, within 2 to 4 weeks, I'm throwing the unhealthy ones out, and I'm only keeping the 2 that are growing the best, is generally kind of my strategy, and then I get them into my beds and have just keep them thriving.
Well, shit, man, we're already at the 9 o'clock mark. I told you we was gonna go to 7 to 9. I know Nick already jumped out, but I'm sure you got other things going on too with the holiday weekend. But definitely appreciate coming out and talking with us, man.
Yeah, great chat, man. I appreciate you guys having us on, and happy to come back some other time. And we'll maybe closer to summer do something again. And
I was gonna say, I'd love to get you back on because I know you got such a wide range of knowledge in soils and just all that stuff. So there's a lot we didn't even touch on that we could have probably even talked about more with you. I would have liked to talk a little more about like biochar and some of that stuff too. So definitely, man, maybe closer to spring or something and get you back on. And
yeah, thank you. And yeah, appreciate everyone for following along. And like I say, this is a good community, and a lot of wholesome farmers that really care about the plant and the plant medicine, and the overall production of what we're trying to do here. And it's overall just a great vibe and a good time. And I'm grateful to have a lot of good friends and to be able to work with so many unique farmers across the state.
Oh yeah, man. And I don't know if you guys want to say anything.
No, it was nice to meet you, Chris. Like, I haven't really got to know much of you until now, so it was kind of nice to meet you.
Thank you. And likewise, always good to speak with like-minded growers. I can chop up ideas all day. Like I say, this is part of the culture. And helps us smooth some different ideas. And and it is good to people to see that we are doing this a little bit different. We don't all have to do it the same, and we're not. And we're getting a variety of successes, and let's talk about it. I hope to see you at one of these events sometime.
Yeah, definitely worth me checking out, especially next year for sure, so I can get some better outdoor and not some fucking rusted mite shit.
Yeah. Well, good luck, guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and best up to your families. Talk to you later.
Yeah. You got anything, Carlton? I don't know if you wanted to say anything at the end here.
I was just going to say, very nice to meet you, Chris, and look forward to having you come back and discussing the soil with you more. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the people in chat. There's been busy today, and there's a lot of people following along. So definitely appreciate all you guys put in the support and check us out and make the show happen. So other than that, and hope everybody has a great